This is the story of two brothers, Chris and Tony Lambrianou, who chose to accept the code of the Krays.
In the East End of London, you know, it's either you run with the pack or you fall down. Everybody was quite poor, but I mean, they were very family orientated. I mean, very, very staunch, together people.
You must bear in mind, it's all families of brothers. You touch me and you've got 5 of my brothers, and that's how it more or less all the families or people who got involved in big crime in the 60s and that came from families of brothers, and that stands out. That will always stand out wherever way you look at it. You had the Krays, you had brothers in North London, you had the Richardsons side, you had so many families of brothers. That's where your strength was. And there was no chance for us to go and play. I mean, we didn't go out for the day to the museum, and they took us to the Nick, where they walked around Royal Scrubs. That's where you look all wind up in. And I think that's how it was. Things were tough, and you had to steal what you got. I never got Christmas presents. I go out and nick them. So it was always there. I mean, it's the way it had to be.
I started stealing lead, stealing bits and pieces and things like that, and graduated up. And then eventually I got arrested for breaking and entering, and I went to an approved school. And I was there for 3 years. I came out of there, and it was almost like a university. I went to the public school, and then I went on to Borstal. Then I graduated from there to a young offenders institution, and from there I did 3 years at the Burn prison for a safe blowing. So I mean, I was moving up the ladder and meeting different people all the time. What happened basically was the twins got to hear through members of the firm that we was up to something, and being the twins, they wanted some of the action.
They knew. Their grapevine was second to none. Unbelievable. They got to know everything that was going on. They're interested in.
And I could get what I wanted the way I wanted by just being me. I could go along quietly, and I would have control of events. But they were thoroughly professional. Or that's the way I saw them. And I really didn't want to get in that deep. Plus, I'd heard rumours about some of the things they were involved in, which I felt were going to draw an awful lot of heat.
I didn't care about no one. Anyone trod their toes, they'd go against them, and you knew that. And it was well known throughout London, throughout anywhere you went. People knew of them. And that attracted me, that side of it attracted me to them. I saw a lot of potential using them to get for our own benefits as well, obviously. And it worked. Tony
was very much part of them, and liked it as well. And I was very, very fearful for him, to be honest. One day I gave one of the Kray associates a lift. And how are you doing, Chris? I said, I'm doing okay. He dropped me off from the Blind Beggar, he dropped me off at my house. Within half an hour, he was back at my house saying, well, the Krays wanted to see me, as Tony was with them. I thought, oh my God, you know, this is one I can't get out of. I don't really want to meet him. But Tony was there with him, you see, so yeah, okay, I'll go down there, and that was how I really got involved.
The Lambrianou brothers quickly found that across the country, association with the Krays name could be highly profitable, especially when it came to collecting the money from those they claimed to be protecting.
I thought it'd better to be in London. At least I was in the camp. And my brother would come down mostly weekends. During the week he'd be up the north, wherever he was, Nottingham, Birmingham, Manchester. And if he'd come up, he'd call me up, I'd come up. And if he would be down, I'd bring him down. And this is how, virtually, he stepped into the McVie murder.
The Regency Club in Stoke Newington was a frequent haunt of the Kray twins. One fateful night in autumn 1967, the Lambrianou brothers went there with some friends. The events that unfolded next were to change the course of underworld history.
When we get there, Jack McVie's in there. Now, prior to this, Jack McVie, when he had a drink, was a man who would let his mouth run away with himself. He'd pretend to phone them up in front of the people. But he wasn't phoning no one up, which is just the way that Jack was. He had to have a dig. Jack was his own man. The twins had helped him, they give him money. He'd pop pills like they were going out of fashion. And Jack was a man who had to have a drink and a good time. He was a typical, what you call a villain. He was over the counter, and what I mean by that, he'd been convicted of bank robberies, he had a record of violence. I'm just giving you a background of what Jack Levy was like. And it came at a point where I think people started to get a bit fed up with him, bad mouthing people.
And Jack came over, he said to me, well, that's good, he said, I'm back on the firm. I said, Jack, I never knew you was off it. And because, I mean, Jack wasn't somebody I associated with the Krays. I mean, Jack was a man who was okay, you know what I mean? He'd have a drink, he'd get a bit angry and aggressive and shout a lot. But basically, I didn't see him as being in the Krays league, you understand what I mean? He wasn't somebody who'd be their bosom pal.
All of a sudden, Reggie walked in. Now, right away I knew something was wrong, the way Reggie was reacting. We'd all been drinking that night, but he wasn't the man that I left in the pub. There's something that had gone on to change, because he was biting his lip, Reggie. He wasn't sure, I always got the opinion he wasn't sure what was going on. And he said, who's downstairs? So I said, well, it's me, Chris. And I checked out down. I went, yeah. And he bit his lip. I come upstairs to get a pack of cigarettes out of the machine, and Tony Davies walking towards me, the club up. And he says to me, there's a party down at Long Kells. Henry Cooper is about to have a return fight with Kray, or an early at the time, and they were watching that on the box. And the next thing, Ronnie pushed past me, went on Tony, and he hit Jack under the eye of a glass, a gin glass. The glass it was, and he cut him under the left eye. But the next thing that happened, Reggie got a knife in his hand. And Hart pinned him for some reason, got hold of him. And he let him go, and Reggie tried to shoot him. But the gun failed to go off as a 32 Mauser. It was a brand new one.
Come on, I mean, I don't believe this is happening. These are professional people. I mean, these are the most professional villains in London. You don't do these kind of things. What have I got myself involved in here? And I said to, I think it was Connie White, I said, Connie, I don't want no part of this. This is so out of order. And Ronnie Kray came out and he said, what's the matter with Chris? And Connie said he didn't come down here for this.
In the meantime, Jack jumped up, and this is what exactly happened. He walked over to the window and he punched the window. And the words he said were this, who do they think they are? And he punched the window in timber.
And for the first time I was scared. That's what I really felt. I've never told anybody that. And in some ways I felt a coward. There was a part of me wanting to run in and just help the guy out. And a part of me held back because Tony was there, and I mean, I didn't know what he knew or what he didn't know. So I'm really on the horns of a dilemma, you know. Whichever way I turn, I mean, I've got a sword hanging over my head.
When the gunfather got, I thought that would be it. But then again, I looked back on it, and I think to myself, he had to go. We couldn't leave him free now. We'd set him up. We'd put him in the middle. There was no way out. Whatever way it did, he's going to have to go.
So Connie Whitehead said, come on, Chris. Took me home in his car, and he drops me at the old man's house. And Connie and I had done Warstall together. He said to me, Chris, don't go back. Whatever you do not go back to that house. I said, Connie, what about Tony? I said, forget about Tony. Tony will be all right. Do not go back.
The next thing that happened was a carving knife is thrust into Reggie's hand. Now things are moving fast, and all I saw was the knife. He must have stabbed him twice within seconds, because I see his sag, and the next thing that happened, Reggie done him in the neck, and the knife arched. And I turned away then, and as I turned around again, I saw two Mills brothers run out of the room. And there's Jack on the floor. And he had a gash in his neck, which I would say went a third of the way around his neck. But he was dead, the blood was everywhere. And there was just this silence there for about 30 seconds. No one seemed to realise what had happened. Everyone was looking at each other. And all that happened then was Reggie saying to me, get rid of that Tony. And they'd gone.
And I sat there and I thought, I can't leave Tony there, I've got to go back. So I've got a 38 Webley revolver laying about with a few, well, I mean, I've got a full loaded barrel. And I get it. And I get a cab and I go back to Evelyn Road. I went downstairs, and there's the body laid there. But it's hard to understand unless you was in my boots. I just didn't think he was dead. I just couldn't imagine him. I mean, he's laying there in front of me. I thought he was going to come to life. I thought he was asleep. I just didn't think he was dead. Then we heard a knock from upstairs, and it was Tony.
I said to my brother and Ronnie Bent, I said, well, what do we do here? Now, the idea is to get him out of that flat. Now, their intention was to burn the place down, get the petrol, to throw it down the area and let the lot go. One thing stopped us. As I come up the stairs, I saw two children looking over the balcony. I think it was on the second floor. And having to be looking.
Well, as we've got it, you were there, but took no actual part in the murder. In fact, you quietly protested about it.
And Reggie Kray of the murder of Jack McVitie.
But the next thing I know is the Krays solicitors there, freely, and we're a pretty tough place. Emotionally, there are very few people who don't cry. There are very few people that don't lose something, and invariably they lose themselves, and that is the reality. So you may look up to them people, but behind all that, the facade, you know, the reality is a lot different. Behind that person who's acting up is a mother who's crying, or a father in despair. You see, my first wife, I weren't the best of husbands. I cared more about other people than I actually cared about them and my young daughter. And I thought, who did I really love? Did I love my wife and my child? Or did I really love the Krays? Or did I love the honour of being part of the code? You understand what I'm saying? But it was too late to call back anything then, so I couldn't have any regrets on it. But there was a part, I don't think I could ever change what I did. I did what I did, and I had to learn to live with it. But I thought, if I ever get the chance again, I'm never going to put anything else before it. And I never am.
It was to cost me a hell of a lot more than they could ever give me. It cost me my family. My father died, my mother died. It cost me my brother. Look what happened to him. It was to wreck our families. But there's a sense of a pride in this, in as much as I stood with them at the end. I was in there when they were getting it, and I was there when it was getting dished out. What I'd like to know is the very people who sat up and done all the denouncing, who committed a lot of the acts of violence, were standing up there, pointing the finger at them. And these were the very people who were dishing out violence and earning money out of it.
I can live with what I did, you understand what I'm saying? I can live with the fact that I didn't send anybody to prison. I can live that I didn't stand up in the dock and throw stones at Ronnie and Reggie Kray, or Charlie, or any of the others that were there. I don't think I could have lived with myself if I'd have done it. I'd done some very naughty things in my time. Nobody ever thrown stones at me.
What I don't understand is the whole glory and aura around. That's where I think it's gone wrong, because I've never done that. You can't promote it. You can't make it right. But it's like Al Capone in America. He's not what he was in the 30s. He's something different in the 90s. Or Lucky Luciano. He's a hero now. But never forget what he was. Never forget what we were. We weren't good men, but we weren't bad, evil men. We kept it amongst ourselves, and that was the end of it. The only bad feeling I feel about the business, what happened to my brother Chris? He should never have got a day.
I saw my father slave and come to different prisons all over the country because we were category A for 10 years, and he had to live. And then I'd hear somebody say they saw my father crying outside the prison. You want to tell me I didn't feel anything? course. What I felt was ashamed. And I once said to one of the train robbers, the man I really respected, the one man I met in prison, I looked at him and I respected, was a man called Bobby Walsh. And I said, Bob, I'm ashamed. Do you understand? I'm ashamed that we took a man or whatever and he died and I couldn't help him. That's the shame it lives in me, you understand? And maybe talking about it, you exercise it, I don't know. But that's the reality. I didn't come out of that feeling any glory. I didn't come out of it feeling I'm the big I am. I didn't come out of it feeling I'm one of the Kray firm. I'm ashamed of it.
He should never have got a day. Everyone knew that. That is well known. He had to sit there and take it. And how do you take life with a 15-year recommendation on the chin? You don't. At least I can get up and say, I've done that. And we discussed this over many periods of time, especially through prison and all the rest of it. He didn't deserve it. There was no justification. Because he was my brother, he had to go. Because he knew the Krays.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please join our Facebook group. It's called Krays Crime Lords of London. We're a friendly moderated group with over 1,000 Kray and other celebrated gangster videos available for view. There's also thousands of images in the photos sections. The link for the group is in the YouTube description section. I hope we see you